Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Picket Studios. I am using the Best Dirt stamps and dies as well as the it's called the Arbor, but it's one part of their scene building. So we're actually going to end up getting two cards out of this. One includes the Arbor and the other one is just from this stamp set, the Best Dirt stamp set. I did pull another stamp set, what was it? The Trumpet Flowers, I think, for the sentiment, but nonetheless, it's all the imagery is from this. And we're just going to do two really simple scene cards. Look at, I missed that flower when I was picking up my stamps. So I'm going to stamp them in our intense black ink because I'm going to be doing a lot of alcohol ink coloring. And, we're going to do really like the ink blending scenes are exactly the same. Like we're going to do them exactly the same. The scenes are just going to look slightly different because of the imagery that we add to it. And honestly, like I love that. I love when you can put together a scene card without it being overly complicated. Now, I did use the dies, for this, but especially the one that does not include the Arbor, the other one, you could do that with masking and have a one layer card really easily. I did speed this up. I don't ink blend this fast. So I like these are the life-changing blending brushes. And I like brushes when I'm doing my sky because they blend really nicely off, like softly into white. So I'm putting on some Salvage Patina and then I'm going to kind of brighten up that blue sky with some salty ocean. And then the white that we leave there is going to look just like clouds. So just add some extra interest to the sky. Then for the grass section, I'm going to use three greens. I'm using Twisted Citron, Mowed Lawn, and Rustic Wilderness. And so again, we have that really light green, that Twisted Citron that's just kind of blend off into the sky. And so we don't really need to create any like distinct lines. These are just nice, good backgrounds for any kind of outdoor scene that you want to create without having to do any masking or anything like that. So I do like to do my ink blending twice for the most part. I don't on the sky always if it's like blended really well, but for the grasses, I typically do make sure I go back with my lightest color and blend those out. And then we're going to hop right into the coloring. So you could absolutely color these brown. They're wood, like a wooden arbor or the wood bench. I went with white because I just wanted something that was really like just light and airy and bright colors and kind of, really picked up on the vibes of like spring or summer. It's been, I don't know, our weather here has been weird. Let's talk about, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. I digress. Let's talk about the sale before we get too far. So this, I've used this stamp set before, this, the Best Dirt, and if you're watching on my channel, maybe I'll link it at the end. I did it with like a little rainbow, but anyway, it is currently part of a bundle sale that Picket Fence is doing. And so the bundle sale is specific items that have been bundled and then they're discounted. This sale, in addition to the regular discount from having bundled items, gives you an additional 25% off. And the discounts have been calculated. So essentially the dies are free, which is an amazing deal. So for this one, this one in particular that I'm using, if you buy the bundle for the stamps and dies, you can get both for $20.99, which is a steal if you want the dies. And there's a bunch of other stamp sets in there. Some are florals, some are other like scene building ones. There is penguins in there that I did use for another scene card with their glacier. So I can link that one as well if you guys are interested. But it's a good deal because, we're all trying to stretch our dollars. And so anytime there's a sale, I want to make sure to tell you guys about it. So anyway, the weather here has been meh. Okay, it's gotten weird, basically. And I know that's everywhere because we had snow in Florida, for Lord's sake. But so the weather got a little bit warmer, like up into the 40s, maybe even the low 50s, which is strange for February in Ohio. And so all of the snow has melted. I told you guys, if you watch on my channel, about the water that we got in our basement. And so now it's kind of reverting back. So today it's been like in the like mid to high 30s today. So we've had some freezing rain. Let's talk about the card real quick. So here, I've been coloring all the other things white, I'm also coloring the stone white because I know all of these things are going to be seated in the grass. And so I just thought the white would pop and be, like I said, really like clean and light feeling. So adding the shadows when you're coloring objects white, that's all you're doing is adding the shadows. So especially for the stones in the front, we want to make sure that we're leaving actual white of the paper. Then the ones in the back that are a little bit you see less of and they're pushed to the back, that will definitely have more gray. And then the same thing with like the seats. You've seen me color both of the seats, so we did leave some white area. I did miss the cushion on the other bench, the bench with the pillow, so we're going to have to go back and do that because I missed it completely. And then we're going to move on to some blues. If you guys watch my videos normally, I talk about how we like to have a cohesive color palette. And so for mine, I already have the blue and green, right? We did that with the ink blending. And so the accent colors that I'm going to add to this are those bright pinks, yellows, oranges that are really nice. But in order to keep it from getting too muddy or looking too busy, I'm going to repeat those blues and greens as well as extra color options. And then everything else is going to be neutrals. So you're going to have like your skin tone and your hair color. Obviously, those are going to be neutrals. And then the pots as well. The pots I tried to color in neutral colors. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're putting a scene together, is to try to repeat the same colors that you know, like you've already had to use. Blue sky and, green grass. Where it's different if you're doing like a snow scene, that snow is going to be white, at least if your snow is clean. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have white snow, and then I usually choose to add a little bit more pizzazz to my skies, just because I already have that white base at the bottom. But yeah, just if you would like it to stay really clean looking, then just make sure you're repeating those colors. And then for the little couches or benches, here's where I remembered that I didn't add any shading to that. So I'm going to go back and get that. And then I just mimicked the same thing. The horizontal stripe is a really easy one to add. Just some character to our scenes because it's just a simple line across. You don't really have to, do anything other than that. And then again, because I like to be matchy and I'm going to be photographing these together, I am for sure going to mimic each other. Like the colors will mimic each other, the patterns, the scenes, obviously we did those together. So then for the skin tones, I typically do try to mix it up, because we all are, have different varying skin tones, and I like to, kind of show a little bit. So this one is like kind of my go-to, like the one that I use the most often, because I am Caucasian and my family is Caucasian. Well, not all of my family, but the family I grew up with, my daughter and my husband are mixed race. So, but then this one, I'm going to do the darker hair and like a paler skin tone. And then the one at the top with like her hair all down, this one, I'm going to do a darker skin tone and just mix up their hair colors and stuff because everybody looks different. They're all beautiful. So I just like to have them represented. So, anywho, the weather today has been, like I said, those 30s. And so they were expecting this freezing rain, which I'm gonna be honest with you, like when I was growing up, it was a different, I think we talked about this before. It was a different animal when we were growing up. They did not care. They didn't care if we were standing out at the bus stop, with frozen hair. And so today, and I do feel bad for the superintendent, like, because he can't win for losing. If he calls it, and they have to, call it at a decent hour, so that way if you are a person who has children and you work, like most of us, then you could take off, work if you need to, or find childcare. So the poor guy, like, has to determine if he's going to call it or he's not going to call it. And so today they were expecting this freezing rain, and then it was supposed to get better, like mid-afternoon. Now, I suppose they could have done a delay, but our school system typically doesn't do that, honestly. And so at 5:30 this morning, we got a call that said that they were gonna call a calamity day because they didn't want people driving around in the ice and the buses and the ice and all of this stuff. So my little peanut has his alarm clock set, to get up, but now he doesn't have to get up for school. I also have my alarm clock set to get him on the bus, because Eric was taking Jelly Bean. And so have you ever just been like, you are sleeping so hard, like you wake up and you don't even know. Like, there's been times that I've woke up as an adult from like a really hard nap and wondered if I missed the bus for school. Like, and I'm not talking about my kids, I'm talking about myself. Like, where you're just so disoriented, you don't even know what is happening to you. So this is a totally funny side note. The other night, this just happened this week too. Back to the card. So here I've chose 2 different green combinations, a yellow green, which will, I'll use for my grasses and things like that. Here I forgot her arms. I had to go back and color her arms. I'm a little bit of a mess today, guys. And then I chose the yellow green and then more of a true green, just so that we have some more interest in our scene and it's not all just the same green on top of green. And then for one of them, I even combine the 2. So you don't feel like you have to have all of the markers. You can, mix them up to get different color combinations. You can add in a yellow or add in a blue or a blue-green and get a totally different color combination that, that way you can extend out what you do have. So anyway, the other night we put Peanut to bed, and then what was he do? I think Eric was in the basement trying to clean up, because he really has been downstairs trying to, clean out the basement for this waterproofing that we now have to have done. And so I think he was down there, and then he had come up and was getting in the shower, I think, to go to bed. And so I was working because I was going to take the kids in the morning, but I typically do stay up just a little bit, later than my husband does, because he typically has to get up earlier than I do. And since Jelly Bean had been sick, like, she was going to be going to daycare for the first day. And so I was going to get up, get him to, to the bus, and then let her sleep just until like she woke up, and then take her to daycare, just so that way I wasn't shortchanging her on any sleep. So anyway, I'm sitting here, and then all of a sudden, like, I hear the door, and like the door to one of the bedrooms, and I turn around, and here comes Peanut out the door, and he's completely dressed, fully dressed, like has a jeans and his t-shirt and his hoodie on. He's got his computer, which charges in his bedroom, his Chromebook for school, already in its case, and he's, walking out the bedroom, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he looks at me and he's like, honestly, I don't know. What time is it? And I was like, it's midnight. And he was like, oh, I thought it was time to go to school. And you could tell from the look on his face that he had been sleeping. So I I followed him back into his bedroom, and I was like, do you need me to, plug your computer back in? And he was like, no, I don't need it. And I was like, okay, are you like getting back in your jams? And he was like, no. And he just went back to bed in what he was wearing to school the next day. Like, whatever, whatever makes you happy. So then this morning when I got the phone call at 5:30 that they were going to have a calamity day, I really was sympathetic because I felt very much the same way. Like I was so discombobulated, I didn't even know what was happening. Let's talk about the card real quick. So here I am I'm repeating those same colors. So I'm having pink flowers and pink dresses, orange flowers and orange dresses. Then also like with the pillow that's included on this bench, blue and orange are complementary colors. So I know that they're going to look great together. So I go ahead and do the pillow orange. And like we're just using the same colors. I switched up like their the colors of their pockets just to add extra interest. And then I did all of their second layer, like their little slips or shifts that would be hanging out from underneath their dresses. I just did them all the neutral white. And I just colored them all as if they had a central highlight. So I left the lightest part in the center. I don't necessarily have a light source in this scene card. Here with the oranges, I like with the flowers, I could get away with kind of jumping a little bit more in between colors. But for the dress, for it to blend, I did have to go back and get the YR07. Or if you don't have another marker, you could do the tip to tip technique. So you would take the lighter color and touch it to the darker color, and then you could have a mid-tone that would connect the two of them. And then the yellow, because it is like a golden yellow, I was able to use to color some of the flower pots, that more gold color that still really does read as like a neutral. Okay, so anyway, phone call, wake up, discombobulated, don't even know what's happening. So now I'm like stumbling out of bed because I recognize that I have to wake him up before his alarm is going off to let him know. And so I go into his bedroom, which is pitch black. Like I cannot see anything and I'm so out of it. My eyes have not adjusted. And so I don't know how to use his alarm clock. I can't just turn them off. And I can't see. So I'm like patting the bed to try to find my child to wake him up. Like I'm just patting the comforter, trying to like locate a leg or an arm. And so I'm patting everywhere and I feel nothing. Here, we're just going through with the coordinating dies, taping them down and running them through. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is he downstairs or did I miss him? Is he already up? Like, was he getting up extra early today? And so I turn to leave to go downstairs, and like as I'm turning, I hear like the covers start to move. So I'm like, no, he's in this bed. He is in the bed. So then I go back and he was like all curled up all the way up in the corner. And I'm like, buddy, they called off school. And he was like, okay, can you turn off my alarm? And I was like, I literally do not know how. And he was like, you just press the off button. And so I'm trying to look on the clock in the dark where I can't see anything, and with an alarm clock that is not my own and I'm completely unfamiliar with. And he's like, you can turn on the light. And I'm like, okay, close your eyes, because you get blinded. And so he closes his eyes, but then I still can't figure it out. So he has to help me anyway. But anyway, so he got an extra little calamity day, which was super nice for him. He was able to sleep in until like 10. So that part of the arbor that has been die cut out also die cuts out the whole back piece. Well, I want to be able to see my sky through the back piece. So, and I did speed this up a little bit, like the blending in. I used a B00 and a B quadruple 0 to blend in my sky so that it looks as if that ink blending continues through, even though it's actually on the die cut. And then I went back and forth about whether or not I was going to color the bottom like kind of like a dirt patch, or if I was going to do it like a cement. And I ended up going, more cement wise, and using those same cool grays, but just being a little bit heavier handed with them. So I did go all the way out to a C7, like where the poles are. And then I'm going to blend in around that area, just some darker grasses, in order to add some interest, and just make it look a little bit different. I decided that I was going to do some like vines that would be growing up what do we call those? Why can't I think of the word? This is not hard. I want to say legs, but that's not right. Like the arms of the arbor, the posts. Wow. Long walk. The posts of the arbor. And so I just drew some little vines with the YG67. And then here I'm going in with just a black marker. It is Copic safe. But I just went in and kind of outlined that so that it would match the black outline stamp. And then I also drew in just some little V shapes so that they would look like they were hanging baskets. And then each one, as I'm kind of gluing it down, I'm going through and blending in those outlines from the die cuts so that they, blend into the scene a little bit more. I use these two taller ones just as like little accent plants. And again, I did go back in and, add the shadows underneath them, blend them into the scene. I decided that I was going to do the grass technique, which is really just like flicking, kind of, you don't want to be like a wall of color. It should be a little bit more random. But I have a whole video on how to do grasses. It's been a while since I've done it, and maybe I should revisit it. But then once I had that done, you could pop these girls up, for an additional layer. But I chose to just glue them down flat. And then again, I will blend their outline into the background, as well as give them like a little shadow where they're standing in the grass. So usually if they're standing in what looks like taller grass, I do like to put the shadow in, but then I also will do a couple of little flicks of grasses, just, so it looks like it's a kind of, I don't know, kind of like it's a different level or whatever, and it makes it stand out a little bit more. And then for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just starting with the top layer, gluing it to the next one, picking them up as one piece, and then gluing it to the next one, and then, so forth and so on until they're all glued down. And then for this one, I am going to do the same thing with blending in my die cuts. But I'm also adding just a little bit of shadow with that darker green underneath the potted plants that are seated there, the bench, underneath her feet where this little pond would be sat in the grass. You would have that little bit of darker shadow. And I did, again, add that little bit of darker grass. Some of those flicks do kind of go up over the stone. But I like that. I think it makes it look, more realistic. So for the sentiments, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. And I did pull out some from, like I said, that trumpet flower set. So I'm going to stamp the Gardeners Know the Best Dirt from the Best Dirt, so aptly named, set, and then also Sending Love and Sending Sunshine, just so I can kind of play around with them and see what I like. I stamped them in white pigment ink and then heat embossed them in a white detail embossing powder, cut them out with their coordinating dies. So here you can see, you can kind of mix up, like either one of them would have worked. I ended up going with Gardeners Know the Best Dirt, which I think is cute. And, they're talking about like gossip, like these two girlfriends are getting together to gossip. And then for this one, the black actually felt like it was a little bit overwhelming. So I ended up just stamping it in black instead of using the heat embossed sentiment. And I like that much better. And then I am going to accent each of the sentiments with, what is this called? Speed of Light. I really like that one. It's the one that's got the blue and the color changing. I added some shimmer. I added some white highlights. And for some of the flower pots, I added just a little, couple of patterns and things like that. And then that's both cards. So I think they came out really cute. I'm really happy with them. And I think that they are, fun examples of kind of easier scenes. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.